The bright lights in the conference room made Dr. Ellie Porter squint as she adjusted her uniform. Outside the windows of the United Nations building, news crews and regular people gathered in huge crowds. Everyone on Earth wanted to see the aliens who had arrived 3 days ago. "Are you ready for this?" Captain Nathan Wright asked. He stood tall in his crisp Earth Space Corps uniform, his short brown hair neatly combed. Ellie nodded, her hands slightly shaking. "As ready as I'll ever be to meet beings from another world." The door opened with a soft hiss. 4 strange creatures walked in. They looked nothing like the little green men from old movies. The tallest one had blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. It stood on 2 legs but had 4 arms and eyes that blinked sideways. This was Ambassador Zixtal of the Viridin species. Behind Zixtal came 3 other aliens. One was short with thick fur and 6 legs. Another floated slightly above the ground, its body almost see-through. The third looked like a giant insect with delicate wings. "We welcome you to Earth," Nathan said, his voice steady. Ambassador Zixtal moved forward. A small device on its chest glowed, and words came out in clear English. "We thank you for your welcome. The Galactic Confederation is pleased to make contact with your species." For the next 2 hours, they talked. The aliens explained that their confederation included 7 advanced species who traveled between stars. They had watched Earth for many years before deciding humans were ready for contact. Ellie noticed how the aliens looked at her and Nathan. Their eyes showed curiosity, but also something else. Something like the way adults sometimes look at children. "Your species is interesting," Zixtal said. "You build complex societies and technology, despite your physical limitations." "Limitations?" Nathan asked. The insect-like alien made a clicking sound. "Your bodies are quite fragile, compared to most spacefaring species. No natural armor, limited strength, dull senses." Ellie sat up straighter. "We may surprise you." Zixtal's translator made a sound like laughter. "Perhaps. We come with an offer. The Confederation has discovered a planet we call KP-549. It has valuable minerals and plant life. We invite Earth to join our expedition there." Nathan looked at Ellie before asking, "Why invite us, if we're so limited?" "Fresh eyes often see what others miss," the floating alien said, its voice sounding like wind chimes. "And we wish to learn more about humans." Zixtal added, "The planet has some dangerous wildlife. We will provide protective technology for your team members." Later, after the aliens left, Ellie and Nathan met with UN officials. They decided to accept the invitation, but with one change. "We'll bring our own security specialist," Nathan said at the next meeting with the aliens. "Jack Summers. He's an expert in wilderness survival." The aliens agreed easily. Too easily, Ellie thought. 2 weeks later, Ellie, Nathan, and Jack boarded the alien ship in orbit. Jack was a quiet man with weathered skin and strong hands. He brought only a small bag with him. "Where are your weapons?" asked one of the alien crew members. Jack smiled. "Just a knife and some tools. I prefer to adapt to my environment." The aliens looked at each other with expressions Ellie couldn't read. As the ship prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Ellie looked out a window at her blue home planet. "Do you think they're underestimating us?" she asked Nathan quietly. "Definitely," he said. "But that might work in our favor." Jack overheard them and laughed. "City folks always underestimate country folks. Seems like that's true across the whole galaxy." The ship hummed as its engines powered up. Among the alien crew, none of them realized that they were taking 3 examples of one of the most adaptable and tenacious species in the galaxy to a planet full of dangers. And soon enough, they would all find out exactly what humans were capable of. The alien ship landed on planet KP-549 with a soft thud. As the door opened, hot, humid air rushed in. Ellie took her first breath on an alien world and smiled. It smelled like wet soil and plants, not too different from Earth's rainforests. "Oxygen levels are 28%, said Nilvex, a tall Veridan scientist with green markings on his blue-gray skin. Higher than your Earth. You might feel more energetic here. Jack Summers stepped out first, his eyes scanning the thick jungle that surrounded the small clearing where they had landed. Massive trees with purple-tinted leaves stretched up hundreds of feet. Strange bird-like creatures flew between them, calling to each other with musical sounds. Beautiful, Ellie whispered as she followed him out. Captain Nathan joined them, along with 4 aliens from different species. Troll, a small fur-covered alien, pointed to a device on his wrist. We must set up camp quickly. Night comes in 3 hours, and we should not be outside then. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Dangerous wildlife. Ambassador Zixtel nodded all 4 of his arms in a gesture of agreement. This planet has many predators, but one stands above all others. We call it the Krezoth. Even with our technology, we avoid contact with it. The team unpacked equipment and set up a camp. The aliens brought energy shields and sensors to place around the area. Jack watched with interest, but spent most of his time walking the edge of the clearing, studying plants and soil. Why does your human touch everything? Asked Mara, a tall insect-like alien with delicate wings. He could touch something poisonous. Ellie smiled. Jack is learning about this place. Humans understand better when we use all our senses. Jack returned with some branches and vines. He sat near the camp and began to cut and tie them together. What are you making? Asked Nilvex. Just some tools, Jack replied. Always good to be prepared. Ambassador Zixtel's eyes blinked sideways in confusion. We have energy weapons if needed. Though against a Krezoth, even those only slow it down. Best strategy is to retreat to the ship. Jack just nodded and kept working on his primitive tools. After the camp was set up, they began exploring the area. Ellie collected plant samples while Nathan mapped the terrain. A mile from camp, they found something unexpected. Stone ruins half buried in the jungle floor. Signs of civilization, Nathan said, touching the smooth stones. Someone built structures here. Nilvex scanned the ruins with a handheld device. These are very old. Thousands of years. The civilization is long gone. What happened to them? Ellie asked. Troll's fur rippled in what seemed like a shrug. Many young civilizations fail. Disease, war, natural disasters. Jack knelt down and brushed dirt from a carving in one stone. It showed a large creature with plates on its back, attacking a group of smaller figures. Or maybe something ate them, he said quietly. The group explored the ruins until the light began to fade. As they headed back to camp, Olivia Chen, a human geologist who had joined them from the ship, pointed to the sky. Weather's changing fast. Dark clouds rolled in, and soon heavy rain poured down. Lightning flashed across the sky. Back at camp, the aliens became nervous. The storm had not been in their forecasts. The ship cannot land in this weather, Zixtel explained. We are stranded until it passes. How long? Nathan asked. At least 12 Earth hours, replied Nilvex, checking readings on his device. Jack looked out into the darkening jungle. The rain made it hard to see more than a few yards. Perfect hunting weather, he said. Hunting? Troll asked, his voice high with worry. Jack turned to the group with a serious expression. Yes, for the hunter, not the hunted. Let's strengthen our defenses. I don't think we want to meet this Krezoth thing unprepared. The aliens exchanged worried glances as thunder boomed overhead, and the shadows of the alien jungle grew deeper around them. Rain pounded on the roof of their shelter as the team gathered inside. Nilvex stood by the door, his eyes fixed on a small device in his hand. The screen showed a red dot moving slowly near the edge of their camp. It is a Krezoth, he said, his voice shaking. One has picked up our scent. The aliens in the room grew still. Troll's fur stood on end, and even Ambassador Zixtel seemed to shrink back. How dangerous is this creature exactly? Nathan asked, looking from one alien face to another. Mara's wings buzzed nervously. The Krezov is the perfect killing machine. It has evolved on worlds with intense competition. Fast, strong, smart, and nearly impossible to kill. Jack moved closer to look at the tracking device. How big? Adult males can be 12 feet tall when standing upright, Nilvex said. They have armor plates that energy weapons barely penetrate, claws that can tear through metal. And they are patient hunters. Ellie frowned. If they're so dangerous, why did you choose this planet for an expedition? The resources here are very valuable, Zixtel admitted, and we thought our technology would keep us safe. But the storm, he gestured to the rain outside. Our ship cannot land to evacuate us, and the weather interferes with our best defenses. Jack walked to his pack and pulled out the tools he had made earlier, a long spear with a sharp stone tip, a club, and what looked like a crude bow. He also took out a large hunting knife. "What are you doing?" Trull asked, eyes wide. "Getting ready," Jack replied calmly. "That thing out there might decide we look like dinner." The aliens stared at the primitive weapons with confusion. "Those will not help against a Krezov," Nilvex said. "Our standard procedure is to hide and wait for extraction." Jack tested the edge of his knife. "Hiding only works if you don't get found. I like to have options." Nathan nodded and turned to the aliens. On Earth, humans had to survive against predators for thousands of years. We learned a few things about defending ourselves. "But the Krezov is not like Earth predators," Mara insisted. "It has killed members of all our species. Even the Braxians with their thick shells couldn't fight one directly." Jack continued to prepare his weapons. "Everything that lives can die," he said simply. Outside, the rain briefly lessened. Olivia suggested they use the break in the weather to reinforce their shelter. Jack agreed and began giving instructions for building simple barriers and traps around the camp. The aliens reluctantly helped, though they clearly thought it was pointless. Trull worked with Olivia, gathering vines that Jack showed them how to weave into nets. "I don't understand," Trull said to Olivia as they worked. "Your friend acts like he can fight this creature, but he doesn't even know what it looks like." Olivia tied a knot in the vine. "Jack spent 20 years in Earth's most dangerous environments. He's faced bears, tigers, crocodiles, animals that could easily kill humans. He respects predators but doesn't fear them." "That's the problem," Trull whispered. "He should fear this one." The rain started again, heavier now. As night fell completely, the jungle came alive with strange sounds, calls and growls unlike anything the humans had heard before. Nilvex's tracker beeped louder. The red dot was moving closer. "It's circling the camp," he said, "testing our defenses." Jack finished sharpening a second spear and handed it to Nathan. "It's smart then. Good to know. We should all stay inside," Zixtel urged. "Our only hope is to wait for the storm to pass." Jack shook his head. "Predators like this get bolder in the dark. If it decides to attack, being cornered in here is the last thing we want." A loud crash came from the jungle, like something large moving through the trees. Everyone froze. "It's coming," Nilvex whispered, his voice barely audible over the rain. Jack stood and picked up his spear. "Then let's be ready for it." Night had fully covered the jungle now. Rain continued to fall, making the ground soft and muddy. Olivia and Trull had gone to check on the equipment they had left at the edge of the camp. They needed to make sure the rain would not damage their samples. "We should hurry," Trull said, his small body shaking. "The Krezov is still out there." Olivia nodded as she covered the sample containers with a waterproof sheet. "Almost done." A loud snap came from the trees behind them. Both froze. The sound came again, closer this time. "Don't move," Olivia whispered. "It might not see us if we stay still." Trull's breathing became fast and shallow. His translation device picked up his quiet words. "That won't work. It can smell us." The bushes at the edge of the clearing moved. Something large was pushing through them. Olivia slowly reached for the communication device on her belt, but stopped when she saw what came out of the jungle. It stood tall on two powerful back legs. Its body was covered in thick plates that looked like armor. A long tail with sharp spikes swung behind it. The head was massive with rows of teeth visible even with its mouth closed. Its front limbs ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through metal. Yellow eyes locked onto them, glowing in the darkness. "Krezoth," Troll whispered, his body frozen in terror. The creature tilted its head, studying them. It took a step forward, its foot sinking into the mud. Olivia noticed it moved with surprising grace for something so large. "Back away slowly," she said to Troll. "We need to get to the others." The Krezoth made a low growling sound. It seemed to understand they were trying to escape. With shocking speed, it charged forward. Troll screamed and fell backwards. Olivia grabbed his arm and pulled him, but the Krezoth was too fast. It would reach them before they could get halfway to the shelter. "Run," she shouted, pushing Troll ahead of her. She turned to face the creature, picking up a branch from the ground. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. The Krezoth slowed, seeming confused by her actions. Prey was supposed to run, not stand and fight. Back at the main shelter, Jack heard Troll scream. Without hesitation, he grabbed his spear and rushed out into the rain. Nathan called after him, but Jack was already moving through the darkness toward the sound. Ambassador Zixtel spoke quickly to the others. "We must help them. Bring the energy weapons." The aliens fumbled with their equipment, panic making them clumsy. Nathan grabbed one of the energy rifles and followed Jack, with Ellie close behind. When they reached the edge of the camp, they saw Olivia standing in front of the massive Krezoth. She held only a branch in her hands. Troll was running toward them, his fur soaked and muddy. "Stay back," Jack called to the others. He moved forward slowly, his spear ready. The Krezoth turned its attention to Jack. It seemed to recognize him as a bigger threat. It made a sound like a hiss mixed with a roar, showing all its teeth. "Olivia, move toward me slowly," Jack said, not taking his eyes off the creature. She started to back away. The Krezoth's tail whipped forward, almost hitting her. She jumped back just in time. The creature's attention returned to her. It began to move forward again, claws extended. Jack knew he had only seconds to act. "Hey," he shouted, hitting his spear against a tree. The loud sound made the Krezoth turn toward him again. The aliens watched in horror as Jack did something none of them expected. Instead of retreating or firing from a distance, he moved toward the deadly predator. "What is he doing?" Zixtel asked in shock. "He will be killed." Nathan's grip tightened on his rifle. "He's drawing it away from Olivia." The Krezoth seemed to accept Jack's challenge. It forgot about Olivia and turned fully toward this new threat. With a roar that shook the trees, it charged at Jack. Instead of running away, Jack also charged forward, his spear aimed at the creature's chest. The aliens gasped as human and predator ran toward each other in the pouring rain. Back at the main shelter, Ellie cleaned and bandaged Jack's wounds. His shoulder had deep cuts from the Krezoth's claws, and his back was badly bruised from hitting the tree. But he was alive, which amazed the aliens. "You should be dead," Nilvex said, watching as Jack barely winced when Ellie cleaned a deep cut. "No one survives a fight with a Krezoth." Jack smiled slightly. First time for everything. The aliens had dragged the dead Krezoth back to camp to study it. They had never been able to examine one up close before. The creature looked even more dangerous in the light. Its claws were longer than Jack's hand, and its teeth were like knives. Ambassador Zixtel approached Nathan while the others examined the body. "Your friend did something impossible. We need to understand how." Nathan nodded. "It's not just Jack. Any trained human could have done what he did, though maybe not as well. Jack is special even among us, but not unique." Zixtel's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "But you have no natural weapons. No claws, no armor. Your skin tears easily. Your bones break. How can you fight creatures like this?" "It's how we evolved," Nathan explained. On Earth, we weren't the strongest or fastest animals. We didn't have the best teeth or claws. So we became smart, adaptable, and very, very stubborn. Ellie joined the conversation as she finished bandaging Jack. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We can keep going long after other animals need to rest. We can ignore pain when we need to. And we learn fast. But the raw strength needed to tear through its hide. Mara said, looking at Jack's hands. Adrenaline, Ellie explained. When humans are in danger, our bodies produce chemicals that can temporarily make us much stronger. It's a survival mechanism. The aliens listened with growing interest. They began to look at the humans differently, not as weak creatures who needed protection, but as something they didn't fully understand. Troll approached Jack carefully. I would be dead if you hadn't helped. Thank you. Jack nodded. Anyone would have done the same. No, Troll said firmly. No one from our worlds would have done what you did. We would have run or hidden. As the night continued, the rain finally stopped. Stars became visible through breaks in the clouds. The aliens asked more questions about humans, how they lived on Earth, how they survived in different environments, how they dealt with dangers. Your planet must be very safe now, with your technology, Nilvex said. Nathan laughed. Parts of it are. But humans still climb mountains just because they're there. We swim in oceans with sharks. We explore caves no one has ever seen. Danger doesn't stop us. It often attracts us. The aliens looked confused by this idea. Olivia had been quiet for most of the night. Now she spoke up. When I faced the Krezoth, I was scared. But I also noticed things. It moved in patterns. It had blind spots. Nothing is perfect, not even the perfect predator. Jack nodded. That's the human way. We see patterns. We find weaknesses. We adapt. As the night went on, Ellie noticed the aliens studying Jack carefully. They measured his arm length, tested his grip strength, and asked about his training. Jack answered their questions patiently, even as he rested his injured body. We may have misjudged humans, Zixel said quietly to Nilvex. They are not what we thought. Nilvex nodded. They look harmless. That makes them more dangerous. Toward morning, Jack insisted on helping build better defenses around the camp. Despite his injuries, he showed the others how to make traps that could slow down or hurt another Krezoth if one approached. The first one might have been hunting alone, he explained. But predators sometimes travel in groups. We should be ready. The aliens watched in fascination as the humans worked together, each using their skills to improve their chances of survival. For the first time, the aliens began to wonder if humans might be the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. Morning came with clear skies. The storm had passed during the night, leaving the jungle wet and glistening in the sunlight. The team had stayed awake, taking turns to watch for more predators. Jack's traps surrounded the camp, simple but clever designs made from vines, sharpened sticks, and stones. Ship will arrive in 1 hour, Nilvex announced, checking his communication device. They can land now that the storm is gone. Jack stood at the edge of the camp, watching the jungle. His wounds were bandaged, but he still moved with surprising ease. Ellie had offered him pain medicine, but he had refused. Movement in the trees, he said suddenly. Everyone froze. 3 more Krezoth emerged from the jungle. They moved slowly, their yellow eyes fixed on the humans and aliens. They seemed more cautious than the first one, perhaps smelling its blood on Jack. They hunt in groups, Nathan said quietly. Jack was right. The largest Krezoth stepped forward, testing the ground near one of Jack's traps. The aliens reached for their energy weapons, hands shaking. Wait, Jack said. Let them come closer. The lead Krezoth took another step and triggered the trap. A net of heavy vines fell from above, tangling its legs. As it struggled, sharp stakes hidden in the ground pierced its softer underside. The creature screamed in pain. The other 2 Krezoth attacked together, rushing toward the camp from different directions. They avoided the traps but ran straight into Jack's backup plan, pits covered with leaves that the team had dug during the night. Both creatures fell in, impaling themselves on sharpened branches at the bottom. The traps worked, Olivia said in amazement. Simple but effective, Jack replied. Been using designs like these for years. The lead Krezoth was still alive, trying to free itself from the net. Nathan aimed his energy rifle and fired 3 times. The creature finally stopped moving. When the ship arrived, the pilot couldn't believe what he saw. 3 dead Krezoth surrounding the camp, plus the one Jack had killed with his bare hands. Impossible, the pilot said. No one kills Krezoth. Humans do, Troll told him, his voice filled with new respect. News spread quickly through the ship. Aliens gathered to see the humans who had survived a night on the planet's surface and killed 4 Krezoth. They stared at Jack with a mixture of fear and awe. Ambassador Zixtol called a meeting with the ship's captain and other leaders. The 3 humans were invited to attend. We need to update our records, Zixtol announced. Humans are not a Class 3 developing species as we thought. They are a Class 1 apex species. Murmurs spread through the room. Class 1 was reserved for the most dangerous and advanced species in the galaxy. But they don't look dangerous, someone objected. That is what makes them more dangerous than any other species we know, Nilvex replied. They appear weak until they are not. The ship's captain, a tall Veridan like Zixtol, looked at Jack. Would you be willing to train some of our security forces? We have never seen fighting methods like yours. Jack smiled slightly. I could teach some basics. After the meeting, the ship headed back to the main Confederation space station. Word of what happened on KP 549 traveled faster than the ship itself. By the time they arrived, many alien leaders were waiting to meet the humans. Ellie was asked to help rewrite the Confederation's understanding of what made a species advanced. Nathan received requests from several worlds for defensive training programs, and Jack was offered a position teaching survival skills to an elite Confederation security force. Did you ever think we'd end up here? Ellie asked Nathan as they watched alien scientists carefully studying videos of Earth animals, lions hunting zebras, eagles catching fish, and humans climbing mountains and diving in oceans. Not exactly, Nathan said, but I always knew they were underestimating us. On a screen, the aliens watched footage of early humans hunting on the African savanna. They saw humans chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. They saw humans using simple tools to take down creatures much larger than themselves. They evolved on a death world too, one alien scientist said in awe. Just like the Krezoth. But they won. Jack stood nearby, listening. He smiled as the aliens finally understood what humans had known all along. Looking harmless was perhaps the most dangerous adaptation of all.